I hope the conference will produce a level of agreement among the political parties in the province about the powers which Parliament should transfer back to representative bodies in the province, and the way that those powers should be exercised. You see, in the end, it is Parliament that decides what should happen, but the government wants to place before Parliament some proposals, and if those proposals have the support of the political parties, then I believe this is a great help, and I've no doubt that if they have, Parliament will be more inclined to agree them.
So you want to see a new devolved government, but what limit would you put on the powers that they will have?
Well, I've said in the statement that the responsibility for law and order would not be handed to a body or bodies in the province. That would remain with Her Majesty's government at Westminster. Now, clearly there would be other limits. The old Stormont government, for example, didn't have total freedom. Clearly we're not going back to Stormont, that's certain. But powers up to, or nearly up to, what were Stormont had before, minus the responsibility for law and order, I think up to that limit, Parliament would very likely agree.
Would you expect to see some measure of power sharing in this new administration?
Well, look, power sharing has become a sort of term of art, hasn't it? And when you say power sharing, it means 1974. Well, that didn't work. And that's clear that we can't go back to the 1974 arrangements. But responsibility for controlling the affairs of the province, in which as many people as possible can have a hand, that is what we're after. Now, the precise way it can be done is what the conference is about.
Initial reaction in the Commons from the three Northern Ireland party leaders there wasn't very hopeful that you would actually achieve anything.
Well, I don't know about that. They've naturally treated the proposal with caution. I understand that absolutely. But as I reminded the House of Commons, each of those parties fought the election earlier this year on the basis that they wanted to have some devolved powers to the people in Northern Ireland. That is, I believe, still their position. Right, if that is what they want, that is what the government wants too. So let us get together and talk about how best it can be achieved.
So you would think the expression time-wasting window dressing was rather unfortunate, perhaps?
Oh, certainly, but it isn't. As far as the government's concerned, this is not window dressing. This is a genuine attempt to get agreement among the political parties in the province about how best we can transfer power back to elected representatives in the province. That's what the government wants to do. The conference is simply a method of seeking to get agreement among the people who will be exercising that power as to how best it can be done.
You specified 4 political parties actually taking part. What about the other various organisations, Sinn Féin, Republican clubs, that sort of thing, who have fought elections?
They have indeed, but it seemed to me that a conference which was too big is very unwieldy. Now, the 4 parties that I mentioned, the Ulster Unionist Party, the Democratic Unionist Party, the SDLP and the Alliance Party, between them represent over 80% of those who vote in elections, and I would judge that if we can get agreement with those 4 as to how it should be done, then that will be acceptable in the province.
But will you accept representations from the other groups?
Oh, certainly, certainly. Anybody is at liberty, and I hope they will, to make recommendations about how best we can proceed. But when we actually sit down at the conference, with me in the chair, it'll be those 4 parties.
And how long is this all going to take?
I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, the quicker the better. But we haven't set any kind of time limit on it, because I don't think that's particularly helpful. But what the government hopes to be in a position to do is to recommend, sooner after the new year begins, recommend some steps to Parliament which hopefully have been agreed by the people in the province.